how a bitter fight between two brothers can end up feeding the world, reshaping daily life for billions of people across more than a century. Man, I absolutely love that quote. Today, we're going to uncover the wild, completely accidental origins of the breakfast empire we all know so well. We'll see exactly how a literal kitchen mishap at a medical facility turned into a multi-billion-dollar global powerhouse. Seriously, your daily breakfast has a pretty crazy origin story.
So, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing way more than just talking about what's in your cereal bowl. We're charting a massive, century-spanning saga. I mean, this is a story packed with bitter sibling rivalry, brilliant marketing innovations, billion-dollar acquisitions, and a modern corporate fracture. It is, without a doubt, the corporate epic of Kellogg's.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our agenda for today. We'll start with the accidental breakfast revolution, then look at the invention of modern cereal marketing, go way beyond the cereal bowl, tackle the crises and controversies they faced, and finally, unpack the historic Kellogg split.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the accidental breakfast revolution, from sanitarium to supermarket. Picture this. The year is 1876, and we're at the Battle Creek Sanitarium in Michigan. Dr. John Kellogg and his brother WK are constantly, and I mean constantly, trying to figure out ways to improve the vegetarian diets of their patients. And all that tinkering? Well, it led to a massive, history-making accident in 1894. They were prepping some wheat-based dough. Dr. John got called away on an emergency, and the batch was accidentally left out overnight. Now, instead of just tossing the ruined, stale dough the next morning, they decided, hey, let's just run it through the rollers anyway. To their total surprise, it didn't form a flat sheet. It formed these delicate little flakes. They baked those flakes, and boom, just like that, they had accidentally invented Flake cereal.
But here's the catch. This one single accident completely fractured their relationship. W.K. Kellogg, who was the businessman of the two, instantly saw dollar signs. He wanted to package and sell these flakes to the general public via mail order. But Dr. John Harvey? He viewed it strictly as a medical prescription and outright forbade his brother from distributing the cereal to anyone outside the sanitarium. Over a single batch of ruined dough, this fundamental disagreement sparked a bitter, lifelong feud.
WK, though, the guy was relentless. Realizing he was never going to see eye to eye with his brother, he actually strikes out on his own and launches the Battle Creek Toasted Cornflake Company in 1906. But then, just 1 year later in 1907, disaster strikes. His main factory burns completely to the ground. Does he quit? No way. He has a brand new plant fully operational in just 6 months. Meanwhile, his own brother John sues him for the rights to the family name. This kicks off a massive legal battle, including a trial that dragged on for an entire month, finally culminating in December 1920 when the Michigan Supreme Court ruled in WK's favor, giving him absolute control over the Kellogg brand.
Moving on to Section 2, Inventing Cereal Marketing, Building Brand Loyalty.
So, with the legal dust finally settled, WK essentially had to invent the modern food marketing playbook from scratch to grow his empire. And he started with the premium, what you and I know as the cereal prize. Way back in 1909, they rolled out the Funny Jungleland Moving Pictures book. At first, merchants literally handed this book to customers in the store if they bought 2 boxes of cornflakes. Later, they cleverly tweaked it to a mail-in offer for just a dime. And it was a staggering success. I mean, they distributed over 2.5 million copies of this book over the following 23 years. That early win basically birthed an absolute masterclass in branding. They started using W.K. Kellogg's actual cursive signature for the 1906 logo just to guarantee authenticity against copycats. Then they unleashed a legendary roster of mascots we all grew up with. Tony the Tiger, Toucan Sam, Snap, Crackle, and Pop, and they just kept pushing the envelope with physical prizes too. By 1945, they were dropping actual pin-back buttons featuring comic characters right inside boxes of Pep cereal. They figured it out really early on. You aren't just selling a quick breakfast, you're selling an experience.
All right, Section 3, Beyond the Cereal Bowl, Decades of Diversification. Fast forward to the late 20th century. The U.S. cereal market was maturing, and frankly, it was stagnating. Financial analysts were literally calling Kellogg's a fine company that was past its prime. So to survive and thrive, they had to look way beyond the cereal bowl. I want you to take a second and really think about this number. $13,547 million. That was Kellogg's revenue in the year 2018. You absolutely do not reach that staggering scale just by selling boxes of cornflakes.
How'd they do it? Well, they did it by spending billions to essentially own the snacking aisle. Check this out, $3.87 billion to acquire Keebler in 2001, completely dominating cookies and crackers, $2.7 billion to snatch up Pringles in 2012, which instantly made them the world's second-largest snack food company, then over $650 million for RX Bar in 2017 to capture a huge chunk of the protein bar market. They effectively bought their way into every corner of your supermarket, quietly shaping the very grocery aisles you walk down today.
Let's move to Section 4, Crises and Controversies. Friction in the megacorporation.
Of course, managing a global empire of that immense size inevitably brings serious friction. As Kellogg's expanded, the record shows they've faced some major legal, ethical, and labor challenges. For instance, in 2010, the Federal Trade Commission cited the company for making unsubstantiated claims that frosted mini-wheats improved children's attentiveness by nearly 20%. Then in 2016, Amnesty International flagged human rights abuses, including child labor, in the supply chain of Wilmart International, a palm oil provider for Kellogg's, which prompted heavy scrutiny over supply chain traceability. And in 2021, intense disagreements over a new labor contract led to a massive 77-day strike by 1,400 union workers across their U.S. cereal plants.
The company's sheer size and influence also placed it squarely in the middle of several political and social debates. They navigated politically charged issues like financially opposing mandatory GMO labeling during California's 2012 Proposition 37, though they did later pledge to label GMOs nationwide. They also actively urged the U.S. government to remain in the Paris Climate Agreement, and their decision to pull advertising from Breitbart News sparked high-profile boycotts. It really goes to show that in the modern era, a global food brand is inextricably linked to public policy and social issues.
And finally, Section 5, the historic Kellogg split, dividing the empire. After more than a century of building and defending this massive corporate entity, management was staring down a huge decision. Where does a 100-year-old brand go next? Think about it. When you have legacy cereal brands that are growing slowly, mixed together with international snack brands that are just exploding in growth, how do you manage both effectively under one roof? Well, in June 2022, the company decided the absolute best way forward was, surprisingly, to break the empire apart.
So in October 2023, they finalized a truly historic split. First, you have Kellanova, which kept the famous stock ticker symbol K. This is the high-growth $11.4 billion global snacking giant, taking heavyweights like Pringles and Cheez-Its. And then you have WK Kellogg Co., carrying the founder's original name and focusing entirely on the $2.4 billion legacy North American cereal business. They literally divided the empire to let each side run at its own optimal speed.
We've gone from a bowl of accidentally flaked weed at a Michigan sanitarium through fires, bitter sibling lawsuits, genius marketing inventions, and billion-dollar acquisitions, all the way to a modern corporate split. It's a wild ride, and it leaves us with a really fascinating question to consider. Is the future of legacy business about holding an empire together or knowing exactly when to break it apart? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the everyday things around you, because as we've seen today, there's always a massive story hiding just beneath the surface.